Scorn is a classic example whereby artistic direction takes precedent over fundamental gameplay mechanics. What you are left with here is a visually stirring game that misses nearly every mark it sets out to do. There are a few questions to ask along the way, my Cockney gang. Firstly, can it even be considered a horror game? Secondly, do the puzzles within the game justify you puzzle-loving gamers to put yourself through this misery? And finally, why are there hanging testicles all over the bloody walls? Well, grab yourself a cup of tea and let's have a chat. When you first boot up Scorn, your little Cockney heart beats with delight, and that's because you see a wonderfully crafted alien world that is stuffed with visual style. And after reading the game description, where it promises to be, and I quote, an atmospheric first-person horror adventure game set in nightmarish universe of odd forms and somber tapestry, you think to yourself, yes lads, Reggie here could have some of this. The best way to describe it, however, is like the first few hours of binge drinking. You have a lovely little buzz after smashing down a load of beers, but come the morning, you regret everything and wish you never went out in the first place. So on to gameplay then. You awake in a weird and visually alluring alien world where Reggie assumes you are some kind of human that has been enslaved. I've no idea because the game tells you nothing other than what you try and piece together in your little head. As you walk about the gaff, you soon realise that this is very much a puzzle game. Ultimately, you go from point A to point B, trying to work out what to do to progress your path further. And here is where Scorn falls flat on its arse. You see, Reggie has no problem in exploration games. Some of the greatest games ever made are in fact self-discovery, such as games like Breath of the Wild. However, the difference in Scorn is that there are few, if any, visual clues on where to go next or what to do, even though the path presented before you is pretty linear with a few deviating routes. For my money, Scorn is in fact a stumbling simulator where you stumble about, desperately clicking your mouse on things that look remotely interesting in the hope that it activates something for you to do. And so you might come across a door or pathway that needs opening, but by will you know where to go to get it to open? So off you go again, stumbling about corridors, trying to work out how to get the bloody doors open, and where the solution that presents itself is not really one you could have worked out other than by clicking the environment by sheer luck. There is no gameplay here, people, nothing to tip you off, nothing to give you a clue, and because of that, the mystery of who you are and why you're on this godforsaken planet becomes a secondary emotion as it is dwarfed by your own boredom. In this example puzzle here, my assumption was that I had to get one of the glowing testicles to a certain location for a mechanical arm to pull it off, and it took Reggie bloody ages, as the puzzle was as tedious as watching a video replay of paint drying at half speed. It wasn't fun or interesting at all, and when I achieved my goal, out popped some sort of deranged alien type human character, and I had no idea why it was there or what I was supposed to do with it. Nothing. So instead I just went up to it and again clicked randomly, and lo and behold, more shit happened around me. You will have more fun reading obituaries in your local newspaper. If you push through those first few hours, eventually things will start to become clearer. You understand that you have some sort of key that opens doors with the same number of lights, and to get those lights on your key you have to do these little puzzles along the way. With that you'll get attacked by a creature here and there, and again your little Cockney heart, it begins to beat with the light as you are hoping for some horror, because up until now there has been zero horror. The alien that attacks you buries some arms into your guts and they stay there forevermore, sporadically dealing you damage as you stumble about the corridors, and these alien worm things start popping up everywhere, which comes on to the next major issue, which is combat, because there is no strategy to it. It's not like you have a jump button or a crouch button and can use the environment to hide behind their attacks to dodge their little acid. God no, instead it's a game of mashing the attack button with your limited range gun to see who snuffs it first. Sometimes you win, much of the time you lose. It leaves you frustrated as you find yourself respawning, but the game doesn't really tell you where from, and so you have to recollect the bit that you stumbled over earlier. Now let's talk about the horror, shall we? Because whilst there's blood and gore here, it's difficult of me to say it's a horror. To me, a good horror game needs to have suspense, whereby any moment you expect either a jump scare or a crescendo of impending doom, where you have someone stalking stalking the corridors, but because you are stumbling around doing nonsense, the atmosphere is instead one of apathy. You just want to get out of this alien world, but not because you feel frightened, but because you are scared your own heart might stop beating any moment from sheer boredom. There is clearly some inspiration from the Alien movies here, where the environment looks and feels like something Ridley Scott would make, except it doesn't contain any of the fear, repulsion or dread of those classic films. Graphically, it's an interesting one, no question. These are some highly talented artists who've created a wonderful alien world that is foreign and visually stunning at times. The detail in the wall textures and the floor sort of imply a meaty texture where everything is organic in some form, where arteries and veins flow throughout, and where even keys and puzzle solutions result in an organic style life form attaching itself to another part of the world. It's beautifully crafted and easily one of the best parts of the game. However, it's also only surface deep, because after a few good hours there are some glaring omissions. Lighting looks very much baked into the assets, and to have some flickering lights where shadows cascade down could have really added some depth here. Likewise, you soon realise how samey everything looks with reused assets throughout, providing you a constant case of deja vu. The volumetric fog and particle effects do add a lot to the atmosphere though, and so you come away thinking how close this game is to visual greatness. The artistic direction in particular is one Reggie is a proper fan of, and whilst the colour palette is as brown as my shits, it does make the world a believable one. No hard task considering the concept that is on offer. Clearly then, the direction here was to pump everything into this visually stimulating world, even if it meant sacrificing some fundamental gameplay mechanics. The fact that there is no HUD, so to speak of, emphasises that point, as they clearly want you immersed in the world they have created on screen. Regarding sound, it's a mixed bag, because what it presents to you is actually very good. There is this constant hum, reminiscent again of the Alien movies as the ship powers through space. You'll hear entrails as doors or elevators are raised or lowered, and once in a blue moon you hear the wows of what seems to be alien bitches in the distance. And so each item has a unique sound effect, and it's certainly believable. There is no musical score here though to help build that horror, and for me that is a big miss, because subtle music can be a very powerful tool to create that impending dread. And of course there is no voice acting or script here, so in actual fact the soundscape is pretty limited. What it presents well, but very much like a girl dating a man with a micro penis. She can't help but wish there was more on offer. So Scorn then is a beautifully realised, unmitigated disaster. It has nonsensical puzzles, piss poor combat, mundane moments of stumbling from point to point in the hope of something interesting happening, followed up by a beautiful art style creating a rich and interesting environment. It's supported by wonderful ambient sounds to try and create the horror genre, but alas, what you got here, it ain't horror. It isn't even really a puzzle game, because solutions rarely present themselves in a way where you feel you've accomplished something other than to randomly click a button. If this is an experience you crave, my recommendation is that you instead get utterly smashed on a drink of your choosing, such as some lovely whiskey, and go to a hedge maze at a fair and stumble through it, trying to work your way out in a drunken mess, because that is what Scorn is without the fun. And until next time, my lovelies, Reggie out.